Hey, Mike.
Hi. Hi.
Nice to
So
meet
Dan
you.
and I, we've been working on student all the way back since like 1998. We've been working on films together. So, and then Dan, this is the co-host of the Monfell Six podcast.
Sure. Sure. Cool.
Um, so I was just telling Mike that I contact because I technically I still work at Northeast Technical College in Green Bay. I haven't had classes there in a while, but I'm still in the system.
Mhm.
And I sent an email asking if they have like a soundproof room that maybe we could record some interviews in. And I got a reply back from one of the deans saying that they do have that, but it couldn't coincide like with class, like if there was a class in there. But I said um, most of the people working on this have day jobs from Monday through Friday, so it would be either Saturday or Sunday that we'd have to shoot.
Mhm.
Um, and then he mentioned something about like as long as it like adheres to like the principles of the school. Um, but one of the things I was telling Mike is our podcast is based off of the book The Monfiles Conspiracy. Do you have that book? Can you show Dan the book? And flip it over on the back. So the guy in the corner, in the far corner, the guy with the glasses,
Mhm.
he worked at Northeast Technical College as like a biology or chemistry professor for like 25 years.
Mhm.
So I'll say we're making a film based off this guy's book, who worked at
Yeah.
this campus for 25 years. Uh, but in Green Bay, like the Monfiles case, it can rile people up. So there's a possibility if they hear Monfiles that they're going to be like, we don't want to be associated with that. Um,
Mhm.
but you know, hopefully it would be nice because then that would be a short drive for Mike Pye and Keith Kutzka. They're both in their 70s. I kind of feel
Sure.
making them feel bad if making them drive for a long. So
Sure.
uh, the other thing I brought up is this: did you get a chance to watch any of this today?
I have not.
I put it on Google Drive. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
so I put it as an MPEG-4 and P4 file, so you should be able to edit with it. But
Okay.
in Beyond Human Nature, like when I was watching it, I was like, man, this guy really did his research and found like all these old clips.
Mhm.
Actually, most of it just comes from this.
Okay.
So this was back in the year 2000. There was a news reporter named Cami Rapson on the Green Bay station, and for the 5 year like engagement where the Monfils Six had been in prison, she did like a
Mhm.
week long, like every night. She did like a segment that aired, and it's really well done. And it
Mhm.
really, this is where like you really start to doubt that these guys are, because 5 years later, and they're just like, we didn't do it, we didn't do it, we didn't do it.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so
Okay.
I just wanted to. So if
Yeah,
I
I
thought that
can.
maybe you could play around and see
Yeah, I can take a
if you
look.
could.
It's just a matter of just getting you kind of like, hey, this is we can use this. We can clean this up and it can be
Yeah,
usable.
yeah,
Because with post production, it would be probably most ideal to have everything as raw as possible, like as you're editing it. Um, I can certainly go and do some stuff before you produce with some of this stuff to just let, hey, this we should be able to use this, or
yeah.
or something and say, you know what, it's really bad. You make the determination whether you want to put it in there or not, or you can make decisions when you're editing, saying, you know what, we'll put it in, but we'll remove the audio from it. We'll put some music underscore over it or something. Um, but it'd be ideal to have everything raw, just because um, just to work on making everything as even as possible audio wise. Because I'll be really examining every frequency. in the audio, and knowing that if we edit something and then we kind of lose it or whatever, I don't know, it just becomes a little extra work. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
That way, when you
Um,
edit, you're editing everything with the raw audio, and then
what I
um,
was thinking is like if there's a particular like thing, part in this that I definitely know I want to use, I can be like, Dan, can you take a listen to that and see if you think that it's gonna work, or
yeah,
if it's not
absolutely,
definitely not gonna work, then I'm just gonna find something
absolutely.
else.
And I can send it back to you so you can listen to it. Like I think the baseball game, I sent that back to you so you could kind of listen to what
Yeah.
what we were able to come up with. And yeah, and you can kind of just make your judgment call. Like it'll be around the ballpark around this. Now, I mean, I'm using some of the noise reduction software and audio um, restoration software is fairly old. It's still stuff that I used back when we used to do stuff together.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, that technology is advanced, and so it's possible. Like when this project comes around, I'll probably upgrade in this area of software. Um,
Mhm.
and so I think you know, but if we can definitely do it with this software, then we're definitely in a good spot.
All right. It was professionally produced, back in the year 2000, like, so most of
Yeah,
it sounds good, but originally I think it came off of a VHS. Someone recorded a VHS because every once in a while you see tracking, like the VCR would do tracking stuff.
sure.
Um, but I'd say about 90% of it is pretty solid.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so we were, the point of this tonight is to do a little bit of an audio tutorial for Mike. So if he's going to record with the equipment, if I have the camera and he's recording audio, he knows more. So did you want to kind of? I have your stuff that arrived today. What
It
did you want
did.
me to show? Yeah.
Oh, good. Good, good, good.
So you said like this screw is important.
Yeah, yeah. So that screw would be important you wanted to take the if you wanted to take
I have one of these too of my own.
oh, you do? Okay, see,
I
it
do.
was just
Yeah.
something I just realized as I was kind of thinking through every scenario. So if you take the Zeppelin here and
Hmm.
um this little spot to hook it up, you can take that boom mic and or that boom pole
Hmm.
and just spin this right into that. Yeah. You'll be able to spin that in there and you can figure out how you can adjust it. It works right in there and it should work within the Zeppelin that you have.
Okay.
The windscreen with the microphone in it. Okay. Now, if you want to put this on like a microphone stand,
Hmm.
there's a good chance that your microphone stand it has kind of a thicker thread. And so that little silver piece there is basically an adapter that will fit on your microphone stand, and then you see the little smaller kind of male end that'll fit right in here, and you'll be able to mount this on a microphone stand. But if you mount it on the boom pole, it'll just go right in without that. So
All right.
um
Uh,
and
now
so yeah,
this.
I didn't know you had one. Yeah, we never even talked about it, but it was something I just realized last second, so I said I'll just throw it in. um but yeah, and then I just threw an extra XLR. I think I don't know if it's a 30 foot or a 50 foot. I don't know, but um, just in case you wanted to use that. But you should be able to. So the microphone that's in that Zeppelin that you have, um,
There's a microphone in here.
there's a microphone in there. Yep, it's the same Rode microphone, the NT1 that you have already.
Oh, I have the NT2.
The NT2.
Yeah. Is there a difference?
They're pretty much the same.
All right.
I'm,
I was
I'm,
gonna
I'm pretty
say
sure.
it's good because my Rode NT, it still works, but um, you need to play around with the cable sometimes before it will kick in.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
it seems to work better if you connect it to phantom power, but then I'm not able to use that lavalier mic because that lavalier mic requires phantom power. Um,
Oh, okay.
so I didn't know that
Yeah,
you're actually going to send this mic.
those mics do need phantom power.
This
Um,
one does.
yeah, yeah, those roads
Right.
do. Um,
It doesn't have a battery, or because mine has an option for a battery.
does it? Let me
Yeah.
just take a look at the NT2 quick here. Just make sure I know what I'm looking at here. I'm just kind of basing it off of just recall here.
I mean,
Um,
I got it like 18 years ago.
is it the NT2A? NT2, it's black, right?
Yeah,
You said it has a battery in it?
it has the option for a battery. Yeah,
It has
that's the
an
way
option
I
for
always
that.
used it. Mhm.
And you've actually used a battery in it?
Yeah, because when I would film things with a camcorder, I didn't before my Zoom. That was the only way.
Oh,
Uh,
I have no idea that it had a. I'm just looking at the specs right now. I'm trying to see where it. I don't see anything about a battery, but
like you remove the foam and then unscrew, and then there's an area for
yeah.
the
So
battery.
yeah, those Zeppelins are kind of tricky. So you basically would, if you want to get into that casing there. Um, hold on one second. Let me bring my screen back up to you here. Here's Teams. There we are. If you want to, you can open up it. It's kind of tricky. But you would take the screen off, the kind of the furry stuff. You take that off, that dead cat,
Hmm.
and it might be kind of a tight squeeze. So just kind of be careful that nothing rips. But I was able to get it on there at some point. And then you'll see, then there'll be kind of like this plastic slash kind of nylon mesh thing
Hmm.
that should have, I believe that one has two screw off caps.
Hmm.
And then underneath you'll be able to adjust the microphone handle and basically then just slide the handle off the main part of the plastic thing, and then you'll have the microphone still stationed there with like two like wraparound plastic pieces that kind of holds the microphone with kind of sound absorbing material, like a rubbery kind of material. And then from there you can start to take the thing apart and take the microphone out if you want, or at least if you want to take a look at the microphone. Um,
If
but
we
it's
were going to
in,
use this indoors, would we just take the dead cat off of it and then we could just leave it in its housing?
you could, if you want to take the furry part off, if you wanted to, yeah, you could do that. You certainly can leave it on too. Um, if you've got a room that really has very little draft or anything, it probably doesn't really matter. Um, but you do have a little bit like, if you like, one of the things we're going to talk about is where you place the microphone in terms of the shot. If you're looking at, well, I guess this is part of it. If you're looking at, this is the shot that you have here,
Hmm.
your microphone wants to be as close to the person speaking without it being in the view. So if my hand is the microphone, then I'm just bringing it up, and boom, there's where it needs to be, and it's right there. So you want that microphone to be as close as possible. But with, if you've got the microphone goes from here to here. The rest of this is all plastic stuff from the Zeppelin there. So, taking the Zeppelin off gives you a little bit more, allows you to get a little bit closer to the person doing the dialogue before it gets into the screen, if that makes sense.
Right.
Because
Um,
that Zeppelin's this long, but your microphone might be this long, so um,
Also, the picket pattern of this microphone, this is a shotgun mic, and so it's like a straight line, and so you want to aim it like almost like you're pointing it at the person's mouth, so that
yeah.
it just picks up, right
Yeah,
from
you
the
you kind of
person's
have it a
mouth.
little bit angled there, and you can kind of like, as you're testing things out, you eventually figure it out, if you want to do it before and just do some test stuff without the people there. And just have someone just start talking about, a book they read or a movie or something. Just have them keep talking and just play around with it and just look at the meter and just kind of see where that sweet spot is. But essentially, if you think of that microphone as an ear and you point that ear towards the sound source that you want to pick, as you're moving your ear around in a location, you'll start to lose some of the sound of things that are maybe coming directly at my face, so I can hear it a lot better. It's kind of like if you're having a hard time hearing someone speak, you turn your ear like, what'd you say? That kind of thing. The reason why we do that is so that we can get the sound right into our ear. You think of the microphone as an ear. It's kind of a good way of looking at it. But Mike, do you have much experience doing any audio recording, capturing, that sort of thing?
Not this type of thing, just when we do our podcast,
Okay.
but not with this stuff.
Okay. So the idea the idea with capturing audio with a microphone is there's a couple of things to just keep in mind. The first thing has to do with the proximity of the microphone to the sound source. You want to get the microphone pretty close to the talent, so that you get the cleanest sound and the appropriate level of sound, so that you're getting a good level, understandable. The further you move that away, the less you're going to hear from the talent, right? So the further the microphone's away, it's going to be harder to hear them. So that when you take the audio and you put it into post-production, and the audio, the dialogue sounds really soft, what we end up doing is we end up turning the gain up. And when we turn the gain up, we can definitely start to hear the person better, but we've also captured all of the sound in the room, which we refer to as noise. And so we have the main signal of the talent, and then you have the noise that's all around it. And the audio devices that we record with also produce noise as well. It's very hard to hear it unless we turn things up after the fact. And so by having the microphone further away, we're forced to turn the gain up in post-production, which means we're going to also hear a bunch of the room. You're going to, like my room here, I'm in the middle of soundproofing this room, but it's got, any room you go into, especially when you've moved into a place, it's got like that echo slapback. You're going to get a lot of that. You're going to hear a lot of that. And that, when you hear that, you automatically think, okay, that kind of sounds like a home movie, like thing. It doesn't sound like, watching, a professional film or documentary. So the idea is to get that microphone as close to the talent as possible. And so then there's a second component to this, and that is the gain in which you record on the device. So you're going to be recording with the Zoom at H6. I know Damon has one of these as well. And, wherever you have the microphone, you've got these little gain dials right here. Okay, and they go from 0 to 10. And what this is, if you want to think of this as a door opening and allowing more sound in. Okay, so you're recording with a microphone, and this is your gain. When you turn this up, if you have headphones on, you're listening through headphones in real time, it's going to get louder. But that's not what you really want to base your turning of the dial on. You want to base your dial on the meters that are going to be on here, okay? And you don't want it to go into the red, and you want to be really careful not to be in the yellow. You want it to stay in the green. So essentially the general rule is you want to keep that level consistent, around -6 dB. That's 6 decibels before it will start to like go in the red and distort and cause a lot of audio problems. Okay. Now, Damon, we met a couple weeks ago about this, and we already set his Zoom to have something called like a compressor limiter on it. So that what that does is that if it does start to go into the red, it will compress the signal so it doesn't go into the red for the most part. It's not going to be perfect. So that's why it'll be important to do testing with the talent when they're in there, get them starting to talk, get them to speak about, what they had for breakfast today, have them tell a story, maybe something that's not related to what you guys are going to be talking about, whatever it is, just get them talking. And then just try a couple of things. Say, can you tell me a portion of another story that maybe has a little bit more energy, where you might find yourself speaking a little bit louder, or just have them say that sentence again, but say it kind of like in an angry voice or a little bit louder or whatever. That way you can kind of get a gauge of, like, if they start to, speak louder and more intense with energy, it doesn't throw you off. Okay. So generally, if your levels are between -12 and -6 dB there, you're going to be in a good spot. That way, if they do get a little bit louder, if it goes to -4, -3, -2, you're still safe,
Would you
again,
say, Dan,
we have
-6 to what?
yeah, -6. I'm going to turn this on here and just kind of just double check what it looks like, because every device is different. So yeah, so you're going to want to keep it around, like I'm speaking right now. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of difficult there. There it is, around -12. So you're going to want to keep it around more -12, between -12 and like -9 and 10. You get to 6, you see that 6 is kind of the cutoff point there. That's when you get into the yellow. Check 1, 1, 2. Yeah, the yellow is fine. So you just keep that around -12 to -6, and you're going to be good. Okay. Oops, there it is. -12 to -6. See, I'm going right up there. I just got right up into the -6 there. You can see where it goes red, and I can really make it go red by just, there. That's when you get into that territory, that gets scary. Now, if you do get a little bit of red, you're still going to be fine. It's not until that red hits the top. Okay. So when I turn this, let's see, I got to turn this one here. So if I turn this one down, check 1, 2, check 1, 2. I've turned the gain down, and you see how my levels aren't very strong. And I'm going to slowly turn the gain up now. I'm still speaking. I'm speaking at the same volume as I was before, but now my gain is way up there. You see how sensitive that is? Okay. So you may ask the question, okay, what number should I set it on for these documentaries then? It really all depends on a few factors. One is the distance where the microphone is. 2, how loud the person's voice is generally. And 3, just the general acoustics of the room. If you have a room that's really dry, it may change things versus one that's really live, with, slapback echo and stuff. Okay. So the gain knob will make it sound louder, but don't think of it so much as the volume, like, oh, that's a good sounding volume for this documentary. Use your eyes. It's good to have headphones so you can listen for little things. You'll be able to pick up little things here and there. If you get like a, like a roaring bus that's going by, and you're like, hold on, let's wait for the bus to go by. From outside, you hear like a low rumble. Sometimes that might be a little bit more difficult to hear in just a natural room. But when you have those headphones on, you're going to hear a little bit more of the lower and higher frequencies. Okay. So that's the reason why to wear the headphones, but avoid basing the volume on just this. Okay. You want to use your eyes and look at those levels and just watch those levels consistently. Look for consistent levels. And as the sound engineer, that's basically your main job. And that's why it's very difficult for, I think that's why Damon asked you to do this, is that it's hard because Damon needs to be kind of like, he's like in a performance. He's got to, it's kind of like being the director and the actor at the same time. I think that probably lends itself to some challenges there, or maybe the actor and the cinematographer. How about that? Um, but that way you're just focusing and you're listening and you're watching that meter and just making sure you're getting solid, consistent levels. That's
Okay.
it. You're going to have some folks that may have a wide dynamic range in their voice where they speak really soft and down low here, and then they speak up really loud. I think Mike's did that a little bit. Like he would kind of talk in the lower voice here, down here, really soft, and then he would bring his pitch up and his voice up higher. But I think if we get that microphone close, that won't be an issue. But the one thing you'll want to watch out for is people that have like a wide dynamic range in their voice, where they have super softs and super louds. Then you're gonna want to play the side of caution and lower that gain. And if the softer parts are going below 12, that's fine. That'll be fine. We just want to make sure that when he or she gets louder, that it doesn't distort and hit 0 dB and get on the res and hit that ceiling. I wouldn't worry so much about telling the folks that you're interviewing, hey, can you speak up? Can you try not to mumble? Can you try, just let them speak how they normally do, but it's just a matter of getting that gain just right. And so Mike, you may find that some of the, you might find that a couple of the people, they're usually a good spot for them is at 6. And, another crew might be better at 7 or 8. And it will kind of vary on those parameters. Now, the final thing to note is on the side here, there's a headphone jack. And then right there is volume. Now, this is where you want to control your volume. So if it's just really loud in your ear, you don't want to turn the gain down, because if you're getting perfect gain there, you turn the volume down. That volume has no impact on the signal. The gain impacts the signal. It's basically what is recorded on, I'll just say tape, on digital, on the SD card, right? But it's stamped there. And once it's on tape, there's no adjusting then at that point. But the volume is all for you. Okay. I think there was, I think the first film I did with you, Damon, what
Falling
was it?
Away.
It was Falling Away. Yeah. I remember it was my first time doing dialogue, and I thought I had a really good signal. I think it was maybe 80. I think we did some narration in the studio.
Mhm.
Didn't we bring that actor into the studio and he did some like narration?
Oh yeah, Brandon. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought we had a great signal because it sounded clear and strong. But my mistake as a young, sophomore, whatever at the time, was my meters were really low. I had the main volume way up, but the meters were very low. And so that when I brought it into post-production, I had to turn it up. And all of a sudden we got a lot of the studio sound. So it kind of had a hissing sound, and it wasn't a quality audio. And that was the first time and only time I allowed that to ever happen again. It was just kind of part of the learning process. Um, so use the visual, and then adjust the gain to help with the meter, and then use the volume on the side to adjust what you're hearing so that it's at a healthy spot for you. It's allows you to hear a little bit more clarity so you can listen for things. Obviously with documentaries, a little bit different, isn't it? It's just like, you record and you don't go and say, let's do 48 takes of you saying this story over again. So it's more of a big deal with the headphones when you're doing some sort of like live action film. So if you're hearing little flaws in the audio, you can say, you know what, there was some little weird clock going off in the house next to us, let's do it again. But those little things now today are easy to take out. So
Okay.
it's not a huge deal.
Just one other important thing. The clapperboard. That clapperboard. I have one in my trunk of my car. That I always keep with me just in case.
Yeah.
So but anyways, that clapperboard. The reason that we use it is because we use it to sync the sound from the audio track that you're recording with the video track that I'm recording. Because that visual of the clapperboard clapping and then the sound, that's how we sync it up. So basically, every time I stop my camera, you have to stop that your Zoom recorder, because and we have to reclap the board because otherwise it's not going to be in sync. So it's like an important thing to remember. So just sort of be aware of that, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. It is a pain in the ass, but it's a crude but effective.
Yeah.
Crude but effective.
And that helps you for the editing process, right? Usually, I don't really spend a lot of time looking at the clapping board because by the time you've edited all those clapping boards out.
Yeah, I've synced it.
You've synced it and everything. So, I'm also looking at this as well, and I know you guys will practice this. Yeah, okay, this one's easy to do. So this one's just a simple, when you're ready, hit record, and it records. Others, you had to hit record and hit play and that sort of thing. But yeah, so you hit record and stop. And so every time you hit record and then you hit stop, it creates a file on the SD card, and then you move on to the next thing. And then these little lights here too, like these two lights here, these first two, that basically arm the microphone for this one here. This is the one that's attached to the Zoom. But if you connect an XLR to the side, then that's going to be 3. You're going to want to make sure that's highlighted. If it's down, like if I turn this down, oops. Now you can't. Well, now you can't hear anything. You can't see anything. It's unarmed. So you got to make sure that those are armed. So whether you're using 2 microphones or 3 microphones, it's just something else. But that'll be easy for you guys to figure that out. As you practice. But I think it might be worthwhile. On a day other than the day that you guys are doing this, is if you guys are around together, is just practice, one of you sitting, or maybe Damon sitting and Mike, you going through the motions of recording and checking levels and trying things out.
Yeah, let me grab something quick. So that Zoom recorder, that should fit inside this. This is just one of those like fanny pack things. I'll bring this on Saturday, Mike, and then you can just put that Zoom recorder in here. So your hands are free, with the boom, if you're holding the boom. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell Mike Pye that we want to go into his basement. Remember in his basement, like there's like a little side room that was right next to all of his cabinets.
I don't really remember a side room. I'll take your word for it, though.
Yeah, so it was sort of just as you come down the steps, and then there was sort of a he had like some sort of like bench in there because he was laying the photos and I was filming from. I was in the room.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the room that I want to go to because that had the best sound because it was kind of enclosed space. So I'm gonna tell Mike Pye, let's go into that area, and then you can start talking about the newspapers from that era, because I know that we can get good audio in that area.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, if you do here's the other thing too. You've got your kind of sitting down stationary like interview, and then if you do anything kind of mobile, it would probably be most ideal for you to still have the boom mic on the mic stand so that the mic is still in placement. But if there's a lot of movement where there's movement, like, there's the kind of movement I can envision you guys like sitting there and talking at a table and moving things around versus walking around the room. If you're still stationary, it'd be good to use the mic on the microphone stand so that it's stationary. But if you are moving anything with the boom pole and you're going to switch to the boom pole, use that as a last resort. And the last resort is if you're going to be mobile. You have to use it if you're mobile. Because as soon as they start to move and the microphone's still standing on the mic stand, you've got the issues of noise, signal to noise issues. So that if you do use the boom pole, then this will be important for you to have headphones on for. There's kind of a technique, and I don't have, like, what I gave you is not like super high-end gear, but it will record vibrations. Just your hand kind of moving a little bit, sometimes even knuckles cracking, like if, something, you'll get like some little boom boom. Now, there is a foam on that boom stand to help with that. And there is also kind of a shock absorber within the Zeppelin chamber there. But one thing that a lot of people neglect to think about is the mic cable. If you can get that mic cable, and if you feel like it would be helpful to like take the mic cable and tape it to like the end of the boom mic, or the
Big right here.
yeah, well, not even there, but at the top, so that you're not getting,
You're not dragging the cord.
it's not swaying, because if I do this to a mic cable, you're gonna hear it. You're gonna hear this boom, 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 boom. Okay, it will pick up that just because of the nature of this equipment. And so
Right.
you want to make sure that the mic cables that are in there are not drooping there. And I often have problems when I'm holding something and I'm doing this and I'm moving around, and something, if I got something loose, this is not don't just ignore this, but imagine this is a loose part of the wire. It's like this, and it kind of hits my hand. You will hear that in the microphone. You'll get some like lower frequencies, lower, like just boom, boom kind of sound. So you just want to be careful with that. Now, when you got it on here and everything, you're good. You're pretty much good. I think the only thing you might want to worry about, like, I think with the mic stand, if you've got some sort of thing to set it on versus having it on your person and having this apparatus completely, not attached to you in any way, just like on a little card table or something, or like a TV tray or something like that, that's probably going to be most ideal. And that way, nothing is touching it. Nothing could interfere and cause anything. If you've got it in a fanny pack and you're doing the mobile thing, that will be the part where you're going to want to just make sure that cord isn't going to be bumping into anything. And so it's going to be kind of tricky, in terms of holding it and just kind of making sure. And so it takes a little bit of time. If there's any movement, one of the first things that you may want to do is just take the boom pole, and just, twist it this way. If you can kind of just get it so that if you're following someone, that can sometimes work, and then you can kind of move your body when you think you need it there. So that's also something that may be surprising, and you'll probably recognize. So it'd be a good idea to just try that out. Just see what happens when you take the handle and squeeze it hard, and just like turn your hand a little bit, or bump the mic cable, and just listen to your headphones and kind of get a feel of all of the equipment. What, if anything responds weird to, any bumping or anything at
So
all.
when we record in that basement room, you think we should have this on the mic stand then?
If you're stationary, I would just use the mic stand that you're using for the interviews.
All right.
But if you feel like if there's some movement, if you realize that there's probably gonna be some movement going on, like he's gonna go over here to the closet and show you stuff, and you're gonna come back over here, and you really want to, get a clean signal, then you may opt to go with the
Yeah, he kind of moves around quite a bit.
yeah.
He's a
There-
very enthusiastic guy, and he has a
Yeah,
lot to
and
show.
here's the other option that you can do. And because you've got the Zoom H6, you couldn't do this with other devices. You've got multiple channels that you could record on. So there is a situation. Let's imagine that this is your microphone that's on a microphone stand for your basic interviews. And you go downstairs and you still have a situation where you can use this. Just have it placed up so that it's, out of view of the camera and you're in a good spot, and you may find that you need to bring it up higher because of some of the unpredictability, because if you're moving, then you're doing this sort of thing. And you can see how it's unpredictable. My microphone could be like here, my microphone could be right here out of view, but then all of a sudden you're moving things around, all of a sudden it pops up into view. Okay. That's imagining that your microphone's above. Okay. Because it should be above. And so in those cases, then yeah, take the microphone and bring it not like right here where it's just out of view, but give yourself a little bit of slack, and bring it up higher so that you definitely are guaranteeing that whatever the video camera is doing, it's definitely not going to get it in. But there is something to be said that if it all kind of depends on the situation. I don't know the situation, but if there's a situation where a lot of this is basically stationary, but there's moments where there is some mobile, moving, going around, you may have that second microphone on the boom with that Zeppelin, and also Mike would also be using that at the same time. And they would almost be kind of in the same position. And then if he does move and you guys move and he feels like I need to move this with them, then you have that as a backup and you're recording two different tracks. One is with this microphone and one is with the boom, and you're good. You've got both of them, so you can basically listen and figure out which is the better take. That is also an option. So and I know sometimes it's kind of unpredictable, with documentaries of what you're going to do, but it might be good to just kind of say, hey, we're going to look at some stuff, and if you're in a situation, like, do you think that you're going to, when you share with us, are we just going to do it here? Or do you think you might move and show us other stuff? I mean, is there a possibility that you might move around and then make a determination on whether you want to just go with one mic or just go with both mics and just kind of be ready for whatever. And of course, then too, Mike, here's the other thing. When you're holding that boom pole, you're human and your arms are going to get tired, so that's also going to play into things, so, when you are in a situation where you're only using the boom pole, Damon, you might want to kind of think about timing with things and think about how you might edit things, and maybe find those moments to sit, time out, or just cut for a second and give Mike a chance to put his arms down and get himself recuperated there. So that's the other thing. It all kind of depends on how long you guys are doing it and, when the body starts to give out. You want to avoid kind of putting it on your shoulder and kind of doing that thing if you're tall enough to do that, just because that's going to bring in a lot of extra noise.
Okay.
Well, I think we covered it then. So yeah, Dan, just take a look at that stuff I sent on Google Drive, and then we'll plan. I guess Mike, I'll plan on seeing you at Mike Pie's at 5 on Saturday.
Okay.
So,
do you have any questions, Mike? I know I threw a lot of stuff at you, but
well, when you were talking about mobile situations, I'm not worrying about the boom being in the shot, right? That would be Damon's concern because he's operating the camera.
Yeah, if he's operating the camera, yeah, he'll kind of direct you on that, but you also kind of want to be cognizant of, so Let's see here. I'm trying to think of a way to explain this here. Let me just pretend that this is the boom here. Okay. So let's just imagine this is the boom pole here. You're holding it up like this, let's say the talent is right here. Okay, right where the microphone is, but the shot, you want to have all the stuff that's on the right-hand side here. I think that's your right-hand side. You want all of that to be in view. That's where you're going to want to be right. You're going to want to make sure that, you're going to be out of view. Obviously, I'm going to be way out of view.
Yeah.
Right. But if your talent is here, then you may not have to have both hands here. You may be more like this, and that would be okay as well. You would just angle this mic down a little bit more. And so that's the one thing you just kind of want to be cognizant of, when you're holding it. Do you have it more of an angle, or do you need to have everything kind of upright like this? So it all kind of depends on where you're going with all of that, And sometimes for some of the longer shots, this is a lot easier to hold the boom pole for a lot longer than having it over your head. And those are things that you may want to talk with Damon. Obviously, you would re-angle this so that it's, right at the sweet spot for the talent when they're speaking. And so that's where your communication would lie with him on that. So when you're doing that mobile stuff. And, if there's a way that he can show you too, kind of like, if it's kind of hard, but if he can kind of show you what it's looking like, and you can kind of experiment, like, let me throw it down. Oh, okay, I see. I need to stay kind of out of that territory. And it's kind of more of a feel, like where your arms are, how far your elbows are bent. You can kind of gauge it by that. But again, it's kind of unpredictable, because Damon could, just take the camera for a moment and bring it up like that or something like that. And boom, you've got the mic, in view. So that's why sometimes the lavalier can be ideal in those situations too. But again, the lavalier, if it's moving or rubbing against something, that you could, cause issues there. So it's something just to kind of experiment with. But it's a good question. It's Damon will kind of direct you, like, you need to, you bring it down here. You might say, hey, do I have a little bit of slack? Can I bring it down? Like, how? And he'll say, try it. And you'll try. Oh no, bring it back up. Right about there. And then of course, also being aware of, and this is just for both of you, just being aware of any reflections, with mirrors and windows and that sort of thing. Damon, you remember that that infamous scene in the what was it? The Oshkosh. It was downtown. We were doing all that stuff downtown. It was a chaotic scene, the apocalypse, everything, and we did that dolly shot down the road, and you had the windows of all the stores in the background.
Oh yeah,
and we had gone through that scene a billion times, and it wasn't towards the very end, and all of a sudden we realized, oh crap, you can see all of us in the reflection of that mirror, and we're just all like walking with the dolly, and just so it's just those little things there, or shadows, if there's a certain light that's hitting a shadow in some way, just kind of being aware of that. That's always, and that's usually kind of a group effort, everyone's kind of cognizant of it. So, but yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna stop recording right now.
Okay. And Damon, I know it's been a while since